My name is Sohale, and I'm the host of the Oops, I Said God podcast, as well as the founder of Soul. Today, I have a conversation with Nikki Mark. To me, she's the quintessence of what it means to be a mother. She's a leader, she's an advocate, a philanthropist, and she tells her story of how she healed after a tragedy that struck her life and her family's life. I'm so excited to have her today, and I'm so excited for you to listen. Nikki, it is so lovely to have you today. Thank you so much for being with me. I'm excited for our conversation. How are you doing?
I'm great. Excited to be here.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
of course. It's a pleasure. So, I would love to just dive deep into it. As I mentioned in my intro, you to me are the quintessence of what it means to be a mom, to be a mother. And I think for a lot of folks out there who don't know about Tommy's story, I'd love for you to share Tommy's story and your story because it's incredibly moving. And yes, I think the audience will see that. So please, do you mind sharing a bit about what transpired before and after, and we'll go from there.
Okay. I'm from Los Angeles and I'm married, 2 boys. I was a busy working mom. I did startup companies, 3 different companies in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And
A hot shot, of course.
I did my best and I worked for amazing entrepreneurs who taught me a lot. And one day, Tommy, my older son, he was a soccer player. He wanted to be a professional soccer player and had really big dreams. And one day he just went to sleep and didn't wake up. He was 12 years old and everything changed. I changed, my family changed, the world that I knew changed. And I had no idea what I would do next that horrible morning. And so what happened that day is a community that I didn't even know I had showed up at my house, and they were there to grieve together and help support our family any way they could. And I cracked open that day. I started to see and hear and feel things I never had before. And television started coming on, and I felt very guided that day. I heard a voice speaking to me. And the person I was before that day was not religious. I was not spiritual.
I was going to ask you,
like,
you meditate?
Mom.
Yeah, tell me.
We had never talked about God or any type of spiritual belief system at all. And so I knew when he left that something bigger was happening, because 3 days prior, I drove him to his soccer game, a weekend soccer match. We drove for a couple hours from LA to San Diego. And during that drive, he said to me, "Mom, is it possible to go to sleep and not wake up?" And I said, "Only if you're really old." That was how his grandmother passed away. And I even said, that's the best way to go. No pain, no drama. And we chuckled about it. And then he said, "It must be really hard for a parent to lose a child."
Oh, God.
And I felt like the wind taken out of me. And I looked at him, and I was driving, and I said, "That is not going to happen here. I go first, you go second. That's how this works." And we started talking about all the signs I would give him. And the whole time I was thinking to myself, where is this coming from? Because we were not these people. And I kept hearing this voice telling me, like, remember his face, remember everything you love about him, like, memorize that freckle on his cheek. Don't ever forget. And I kept thinking, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
Maybe because he was turning 13 in a couple weeks. I thought, maybe there's something magical really about turning 13, that I was becoming sentimental. And 3 days later, he went to sleep and didn't wake up.
Wow.
I remember that conversation. And I thought to myself, there's something bigger going on here. And I said to my husband that very day, this is some sort of plan. I don't understand it. I don't know what it is, but like, I wanted to figure it out. And the more I cracked open, and the more I basically died like the person I was, something new started to present itself. And I got really curious, and I started to wonder, oh my gosh, is it possible that I could still connect with him in some way? If everything is energy, which science says, and I learned that in high school, does that mean we still exist in some way? And all the signs I was receiving, the new senses that were turning on, my dreams exploded with ancestors in them and teachers and guides in them. And quite frankly, I got really curious, and it became eventually, in time, something that was uplifting. It gave me hope. It made me at times smile, which I never thought I'd do again.
Yeah.
And I started writing. A friend left me a journal in a pile of gifts and cards, and I pulled it out and I just started writing and writing, and I was writing to Tommy. What happened? How am I gonna do this?
Yeah.
And how's our family gonna put these pieces back together? And I still write to him every night, and that writing became a passion, and it started to develop new talents in me and help me explore myself and explore the world and see it in ways I just didn't before.
Wow. What a story. And there's so many places to double click on that. From the healing journey, which it sounds like, a question that came to my mind also was about identity, right? Because you're a mom, but you're also, and I would say like a executive or startup executive, you're a wife. And so there's all these different elements of identity as well. And then lastly, being like a consultant, breaking it down, what are the three things? But the third one is, what does love mean to you? What I'd love to start with, though, is that Tommy's Field. Can you tell us about how this led to Tommy's Field, and just explain what Tommy's Field is? And then I'd love to dig in on just that healing journey.
So prior to him passing away, and during that trip to San Diego, I had taken a few months off of work, and I was getting ready for my next startup, my next job. I wasn't sure what it would be. And Tommy asked me, what are you going to do? What do you do, by the way? So I explained to him what my job was in the startup world. And I said, but in the meanwhile, right now, I think I want to refurbish a dirt field in a park and make it a soccer field for all the kids to play. And he was a big soccer player. His younger brother plays soccer. Los Angeles really struggles with public playing fields. We don't have enough of them. And our Department of Rec and Parks doesn't necessarily have the budgets or the space to create more. And so we had a park down the street, dirt with holes forever. I said, I think I want to upgrade that for everybody and give back.
Yeah.
And he said, that's so cool, Mom. Our neighborhood doesn't have anything like that. And he couldn't wait to play on it. 3 days later, he was gone, and a friend and fellow soccer mom came to me that very day and said, Nikki, build that field and let's honor Tommy and let's share his spirit of play with other children, that he would love to know that his life was still impacting others in a way that was meaningful to him. Yeah. And the one thing that he did many things well, but the gaping hole when he left was the spirit of play and joy that he brought to this world. And I said, and with my husband, our younger son, and our community, okay, let's build that field. And we had a fundraising avenue right then and there because everybody wanted to do something to pour their grief into something.
What a testament to the community.
It became about community. And so kids were selling lemonade and asking for money for their birthdays so they could contribute to it. Wow. We had a friend put on a comedy show as a fundraiser. Another friend put on a golf tournament. Another, with my husband and some of his colleagues, they put on a concert. It was just one thing after another. So Tommy was a connector in life, and he became this connector in his passing. Mm-hmm. And I really learned the strength and value of community.
Yeah.
So it was like all tragically beautiful coming together. And so we set out on a mission to build Tommy's Field, to raise over $1 million and gift it to the city of Los Angeles. And it became difficult. And as everything in Los Angeles, there's a lot of bureaucracy. A lot of people want different things. But I believe even the difficulties were a big part of my healing journey and identity, as you suggested, and that we, in the end, got it done. It got built. thousands of kids play on it every week.
That's beautiful.
And there's no lock, no fence, and it's Tommy's Field. And we now have a second Tommy's Field that's built, and we're in the process with the city of LA and doing a third.
Wow.
And
very
so
inspiring.
we continue, and his spirit continues to grow and impact here.
Oh, yeah. And tell us about his spirit, because we focused about you and his questions, but I'm really curious, how have you learned his essence to be?
Yeah. When he left, I thought about it and I wondered, did he come here to show me how to live this thing called life? Because even in that conversation in the car, I said to him, I reviewed his whole life with him, which is just bizarre because I never did something like that before. And I said I was just so proud of him because he went after everything he wanted to do and be in life and had no fear about it. Yeah. And I wasn't that person growing up. So he was always dancing and singing and playing sports. He was trying everything. He was just curious. He wanted to meet all kinds of people. He listened to all kinds of music. He could speak to an adult as easily as he could speak to a child. Man, woman, didn't care what culture, religion, background. In fact, his preschool director said he's like the mayor. He walks in, he waves to everybody.
That's cute.
He always wanted to laugh and play a little too much even. He would leave class just to go dance in the doorway of his friend's classroom to make them laugh and then run back into class. Like he just wanted to milk the most out of life. And he also wanted to experience the most out of life. And so he was always going from one thing to the next. He really lived like he knew he only had 12 years.
Wow.
And so it's really inspired me to wake up and open up. And even though at first I was like, how am I ever going to live again? Like how, without my child? I had a younger son I wanted to live for. But when you lose a child, there's a whole half of your heart, or feels like all of you, is just gone. But because of the way he lived, I knew quickly, and I learned quickly, that to honor him was to learn how to live like that. And that to not live like that would be to dishonor him.
Wow.
And so I had to learn and trust that I could learn to do it. I could learn to smile. I could learn to laugh. I could get curious. I could explore. And I could make the most out of this life. And I could take him along with me in spirit. And merge with him as we're doing it together.
Yeah. Oh, God, that is so touching. That healing journey afterwards and bringing him along in spirit, you both have been having a lot of laughter and fun, I think, as you've discovered different modalities of healing and finding inner peace and integrating, I would say, his spirit in your day-to-day. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that healing journey? How did you integrate his spirit? What was that like? Were there certain things that helped you as you were traversing that journey?
The day he left, I sat on a couch dying, and some voice is speaking to me without a sound.
Yeah.
And I'm speaking to every god, goddess, star, planet. I didn't know anybody's names. I had never been a part of a community of gods and goddesses before. I never studied it. And I spoke to them. I just surrendered. What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
And because I did startups, I recognize I was my own startup now. That I wouldn't be making other people's visions come true anymore, at least not for a while, that I had something I needed to start up. It was myself. I needed to restart myself and my life. And I would be building Tommy's Field. I would be creating a vision and mission moving forward that was as if I was building a startup company. Mm-hmm. And it became very clear to me that day that prescription meds and talk therapy were not going to work fast or deep enough for me. Yeah. And I became very aware, and I could feel how many people are struggling with depression and anxiety and wanting to die in this world, because for the first time in my life, I was right there on that frequency with them.
Yeah.
And I thought, no one can live like this. You cannot live like this. You don't want to live like this. And there's very little that somebody can say to you when you feel like that to make you feel better. And as televisions are turning on and my dreams, I'm getting visitation.
You mentioned television turning on. Do you mind just sharing a bit more? What do you mean by that? Because
Yeah, I know it sounds nutty. The day he left, his television in his room just came on by itself.
Okay.
And then a couple of weeks later, a friend came over to help do yoga with me and try to move energy in my body. And I said, I just feel like he's here. And all of a sudden, the television went on by
wow.
itself. And there were evenings where in the middle of the night, it would just go on by itself. And music and lights were flickering. Things were happening.
Yeah.
And people will say, well, that might have happened before. Maybe lights flickered before and I didn't notice it, but now I noticed it. Television certainly never turned on before. Music was coming on by itself. Essentially, many of the signs that he and I talked about that I would give him when I passed
In
away,
that car ride.
he started giving me.
Wow.
And I turned to my friend after his funeral and I said, I want to speak to a medium. I had never done something like that. And I knew my mother had once in her life, and it was a good experience. And so my friend was the most spiritual person I knew at the time, and she connected me with someone she trusted. And I spoke to this medium who only knew my first name, and she knew my son. And she knew the conversation we had in the car. She knew the conversation that he had with his little brother a couple nights prior.
Wow.
At the end of 1 hour, I felt lighter. And that became my barometer for, is this a kind of help and therapy and healing modality that would help me? Do you make me feel better? It was not. My mind was grief-ridden. It was useless. It was frozen. The mind that I had developed and spent so many years in school training and learning and succeeding was completely useless. My broken heart was now in charge, and I could only feel my way in a new direction. And the way I moved depended on what made me feel just a little bit lighter, even if it was just for a couple minutes. That medium conversation made me think, I think I just spoke with my son's energy. Like, how does this work? And could this exploration make me feel better? And who are these people doing all these kinds of work?
Yeah.
And so instead of going to a therapist once a week, I decided I would try different alternative healers of all kinds. They would become my weekly appointment. And I would test like a startup, like a scientist. I would test and find a new way of healing. Is it possible to heal a mother's broken heart? Is it even possible? I knew I had the rest of my life to find out. I have a son to live for. I had a legacy to build for Tommy. I had reasons that I knew I had to stay and reasons why I was still here. So I was going to make the most of it. And I explored deep into the world of all these different kinds of healers, from mediums to, quite honestly, simply acupuncture, to some psychedelics, psilocybin, to, there's just so many. Yeah. There's so many. And so I would, even astrology, I was shocked. I was like, well, if it's only the study of the science and stars, like maybe, or planets and stars, maybe they should all tell me the same thing, because that's not as intuitive. And I did everything in threes, testing and probing and seeing, is it true? Is it real? Who's good? Who's not? And
what do you mean? Sorry, what do you mean by threes?
If an astrologer told me something and I had a great reading, something like that, I wanted to try a different one.
I see.
Because that's based on the study of planets and stars. I wanted to know, did they say the same thing?
Yeah.
And so I tried different people coming from different parts of the world that were referred or trusted, and got very similar stories or similar types of healing responses. And then each one went deeper, and they went deeper, and they went deeper. And so I have found different teachers and different healers, quite honestly, at the exact right time when I've needed them along the way. So now I share everything I've learned with others to open up their minds and their hearts, because the person I was 6 years ago, I didn't know any of this stuff. Once I started on this path, it became really clear to me, people need to know that they have options, and people need to know that our hearts actually have been completely suppressed by our amazing minds that takes all the focus, right? We educate them, but our hearts have a voice and a mind, and wants and desires, and there's a balance to create again within ourselves.
Absolutely.
And I learned that healing is an inside-out process, and that it's only by healing ourselves, and there's a lot of ancestral healing, and it goes really deep. But when we get to know ourselves and really heal ourselves, that's how we most contribute to the world. I feel blessed that he's taught me all of this, and that I'm able to share it with others who may be in need.
Yeah, absolutely. It's extremely inspiring and very heartfelt. It's so easy to give up after something like that. And you showed so much resilience and grit. And I know on the outside, it's easier to say that than when you're in it. And for a tragedy like that to happen, it's profound. It's not, as you mentioned, a parent losing their child. I believe it's Plato or Socrates, one of the two. I'd say that's the worst thing a person could experience, is burying their own kids or child.
But I will say it's love. It's not so much strength. It's love.
Tell me because that was what I wanted to know, is how has love changed for you? What is love, the transformation of the word love? I feel like there's a transformation of the word love for sure. Actually, I sense that. I want to know, what does love mean to you now?
You lose someone like that. You lose a child. You lose someone you love, a spouse or friend or a pet. You just feel this deep well of love that we forget to tap into when we're just going on in our busy lives. And when Tommy left, I was just overwhelmed with grief and darkness on the one hand, and this incredible love on the other that is so painful. You can't live in it all the time.
Yeah.
But to be able to be aware of it and tap into it, just community love, being aware that you would give yourself up for this person, that kind of love, how I wanted to just trade my life with him, to give him all this back, and to realize how much you love someone and how much you can grow that love even between two worlds is really inspiring on an individual level.
Absolutely. And how has that shifted your identity of yourself? Because I think about, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but often you're associated with Tommy, which is great, and given his spirit and what he stands for. Before, I said this earlier, before Tommy's passing, you saw yourself as a multiple identities. Now, how do you see yourself? Who are you now? And that's a very deep question. You don't have to go totally mystical on it.
Yeah.
But how do you see yourself in terms of your purpose in this world? Or how's that changed? I'm curious. Because
before, I was a working mom who did startups, and I had all these different labels. And now I am this person who has gone through a major transformation. That every day I wake up, I'm like, what's it going to be like today?
Oh, wow.
I have a mission. I have things I want to accomplish. I'm very clear about that. But how I get there, the old me I knew exactly what to do, when to do. And I controlled every bit of my fate and destiny, I thought. And when he left, it became clear to me that very second, I don't control anything.
Wow.
That I thought I had it nailed.
Yeah.
I controlled every aspect of my life and created it the way I wanted, and I loved it, quite frankly. I liked my life.
Yeah.
This is teaching me how to work in a world with a lot more faith and trust and love from myself. I definitely was a harder person. I was very focused on the external world, and I think that I'm becoming more balanced between different pieces of me that want to be expressed in this world, and having a little bit more of the Tommy Mark guts to go for it, to try it, because now I know, oh my God, I know what happens when we take our last breath. I know what we're going to be thinking. And I look back on Tommy's life, thank goodness he did so much of what he wanted to do. Like he did not hold back. And I want to be like that.
Yeah. So what's that mission for you? You mentioned mission. So what's the mission? Can you share?
My mission is really to share and to teach everything I've learned about healing our hearts. And that when we can heal our own hearts from any kind of loss, and we all lose in life, someone or something we love, usually multiple times. If we can begin to look at it in a different way and recognize that when we heal our own hearts, we are really contributing to the world in an incredibly meaningful way. And people are struggling. They are lost. They feel lost. They feel like they have no meaning in this world. And I understand that now. And I understand when we do our own work, we do our own healing, and it's a lot of family work, and we approach it from whatever way feels right to us, we are contributing.
So if someone is going through a tough time, they're going through, let's put it this way, if someone is going through the process of healing, how should they start? What should they do?
First, you have to make a choice that you want to. The choice has to be really clear, that you are going to get up every day. I made that choice. I will get up every day and I will take one step to honor my son and live for my younger one. I don't know how. I don't know what step. But I will wake up every day and take one step. And I know eventually one step will become two steps. And they'll get a little bit bigger and a little bit clearer. And I will trust and I will have faith in me, in everybody, that I can reinvent myself. I can restart myself, just like I started all these startup companies for other people. And so you have to make the choice. There comes a time where you just make the choice. And that's step one.
And then after that, it sounds based off of your journey. Actually, you should just answer that. I can reflect back. But yeah, do you want to answer? I was going to say
I had a goal.
Okay.
I wanted to build Tommy's Field. I wanted to honor him.
So there was a purpose.
I had a younger son I wanted to help heal and love and be a mom to. And that meant not just learning how to survive. That meant learning how to live again and be a mom that could have a positive impact on his life, not a sad mom for the rest of my life. That's not the mom he needed. And I wanted to honor Tommy and share his spirit of play with the world. And to do that, I had to learn how to embody that spirit of play. And I'm still learning how. This is a process. But you have to have a goal. It doesn't have to be big like that, but something that makes you curious or inspires you or is really meaningful to you. And it doesn't matter if it is meaningful to anybody else. The truth is, if it's meaningful to you, it's meaningful to a lot of people. You may not know them yet, but that's how you start to become true to yourself and get on the right path. And you start to see old people drop and new people come in, and it's all good.
What are some of the modalities or healing methods, et cetera, that you leveraged that were very effective for you? And a lot of people have to say, oh, the most important one. I don't believe there's a most important one. They probably all worked together. So maybe 3 to 5 that you would recommend to folks as resources, those modalities that could support them after they make that choice.
For losing someone you love, seeing a medium was hands down, a good medium was the biggest help. And I know that's true for many parents who've lost children, especially, which leads me to believe it's true for anyone who's lost anyone they love. But those parents that have lost a child decades before me and my husband said to us, after years of therapy and everything else they tried, it was one session with one medium that gave them the most hope and cleared up the most answers for them. And a medium, a good one for sure. And then I did really simple things that have helped me to this day, like acupuncture and yoga. Just moving energy, just doing things that feel good for you, that get the flow of energy moving. And hands down meditation.
Really?
The old person I was, the former person I was,
Yeah.
I thought these people were crazy and I would have rolled my eyes at me now. But I was so desperate that one of my first calls was to a meditation center. And I walked in and I just started taking different classes because I needed to find stillness in my mind that was, and a nervous system that was just, so I still keep up that practice, whether I take long meditation walks or I take quiet time by myself or I do a lot of breathwork classes, anything to move the energy, to get the grief, to face the grief, to move the grief. Like I went straight to the darkest point. Yeah. There was no skirting it. I wanted to get through it, but I knew I couldn't race through it. And these were the kinds of modalities that I could wake up to every day and have something to go to that I knew was healthy. Yeah. Put me in the middle of a community, but I could be myself, like on my own. Yeah. And I would say, a psilocybin journey, I had a loop of trauma in my head going around and around. It would not stop. And I believe that type of therapy really does disconnect some old circuits and create some new ones so that I finally was out. I could step back from the trauma. Yeah. I could look at it a little bit and not be so overwhelmed by it. So those are some of the modalities that have helped me a lot, given such an unthinkable and unexpected loss.
Of course, yeah. Do you have any thoughts that some folks will become dependent on a medium almost? Like they just want to keep going back, and it could be addictive.
Someone asked me that question once. She said, if you believe in it, why don't you talk to one every day? That's a good question, but you don't feel the need. I didn't feel the need. Okay. And people I know don't feel the need. It's like you had a great reading. That's a win. Yeah. It made me, it filled me up. Yeah. You almost can get nervous that if you have another one, it won't be as good. But that hasn't been my experience. I only had one bad experience as I was testing and exploring. But it's like anything, discipline and balance. And first of all, it's expensive. Second of all, there's not that much more to say. Yeah. I will schedule to this day when I know I have a hard day coming up, maybe the day of his passing. I'll schedule like an interesting healer on that day to give me a little boost. Yeah, almost like a therapy appointment, but a different kind. And I'll talk to a medium every couple years now if I feel like I need to check in, just to be on the right path, just to not to rehash why he left but just to stay connected, maybe in a way to verify that my connection really is a connection. Still human beings. Yeah. There's no perfect science. Everyone finds their own balance. Of course. And everything costs as well. But a lot of these people and alternative healing modalities cost a lot less than traditional therapy and medication for life. So it's been, I think, the right avenue for me.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And how has the evolution of the word God been for you? I know beforehand it was like, it sounded like.
I never even used that.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever. Yeah. How has your view of God changed, or faith, or the transcendent?
I have a lot of faith. And I have faith in Tommy. I have faith in me. I have faith in some larger divine universe and plan. I don't believe in accidents anymore. When problems arise, I look deeper. What is this trying to teach me, as opposed to seeing a problem? Yeah. I never used the God word before. I don't really either, but it doesn't make me uncomfortable anymore. I appreciate that people have different beliefs. Yeah. I no longer kind of question or scorn them. I'm very open and accepting. I understand why now people have religion that they follow or certain belief systems that I never understood before. So I'm much more open and less judgmental. Yeah. My husband looks at me sometimes as like, you and your hocus pocus and but I have fun with it. And I try not to take it I can't take it too seriously. Tommy would never take it seriously, but I am dedicated to it.
Yeah.
Like I don't just believe it, like I know it.
You've experienced it.
I've experienced it. I see it. I feel it. And I've come a long way in almost 7 years. So I'm super proud to have discovered it, to be open to it, and to have had this lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nikki, I'm so grateful for you and your story and your vulnerability today. Truly, you're a light and beaming light, both you and Tommy. And so thank you so much for being here, for being open to chat about it. Thank you.
Thank you. So fun.
Yeah.
Thank you for exploring it with me.
Of course. And for those who are listening, Tommy's Field is also a book that Nikki wrote about her whole journey of bringing this to life. It's extremely moving, and we highly recommend to take a read on that. Nikki, if folks want to follow you, learn more, how can they do?
So our foundation's website is tm23foundation.org. And that explains everything about Tommy's Fields. And nikkimark.com is my own personal website. And then there's Tommy's Field, the book, which is for sale on Amazon and everywhere books are sold.
Thank you again. Have a lovely day.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Sohale. I'm the founder of Soul. Thank you so much for listening in today. You know, this journey started about 3 years ago. A classmate of mine said I should write in a gratitude journal, bought the journal, did it for 5 days, and then I stopped. How many of us have bought a journal and then we just stopped writing in that journal? So instead, I would write an email to myself. I'd write what I'm grateful for in an email. I'd schedule send it. It'd come back to my inbox, and I'd reply and schedule send it again. And I do that for 3 years. It transforms my life and others when I leverage this hack. That inspires the creation of Soul. Soul sends spontaneous nudges of prompts that inspire inner reflection, peace, and bliss. We have gratitude prompts that help you build a gratitude habit, prompts to experience what does being a Sufi mean, or experiencing Kabbalah or Christian mysticism, or going through a life transition, or even prompts related to relationships. This is all tied to this vision of creating a world where we realize that we are one, united, and connected. That is why I have created Soul. I'm so excited for you to be a part of this journey. Please try Soul out, www.bringsoul.life, and join us in this vision to create a world where we all realize that we are one, united, and connected.